This podcast provides a platform to discuss important questions and complex issues, challenge the status quo, and confront the boundaries of the establishment. I'm retired police chief Daniel Hahn. I went from being arrested at 16 to serving over 34 years in law enforcement. My goal is to keep you informed with news not being reported, voices not being heard, and the untold history of how we got here so that we can create a way forward. Special honor to have Mr. Jerry Manuel on our way forward today. So let's just jump right in. I always like people to hear our guest's story. So talk a little bit about your upbringing, and you're not originally from Sacramento, so a little bit about where you grew up and your family and what brought you to California.
Okay, well, I was born in Georgia, South Georgia, in a place called Hahira, Georgia, which was where the hospital was. I was actually lived in Cecil. I lived there till the second grade, and from the second grade to the sixth grade was in Amarillo, Texas. My father was in the military, so we traveled. When a base closed, he would choose another one. And then he had an opportunity after that to go to Colorado or Sacramento. And he thought—
In the military.
In the military.
Yeah.
And he thought Sacramento was a little bit more progressive and was kind of a safe place for his kids. So I'm one of seven children. And when I came to California, I think it's the summer of '68, and it was the first time I went to school with integrated children. That was my first
So in
experience.
Texas,
Yeah,
and in Georgia, it was all black school.
All black school. Everything was, the culture, everything was embraced in that sense. So when I came here, I had to shift a little bit my thinking and so forth. And
So what was that? So you were starting high school basically when you came here.
Ninth grade, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that for you as probably a 15-year-old or
Right.
somewhere around there, kid that came from an environment that's all segregated, probably felt pretty safe to you,
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine,
Mm-hmm.
to come into a whole new city. So you got all sorts of things to learn, but also an integrated school. What was that like for you? Was that challenging?
It was very challenging. It was very challenging for me because our language was a little different in our little community than here in California. But there was some fear and trepidation, but the people treated me extremely well. I think what happened for me was that sports was that connecting thing for me, being on a team, being a decent player, high school athlete, that type of thing.
That's an understatement.
made it easier, I think, for me. I think probably my most challenging thing in high school was ninth grade was still junior high. So it wasn't like I was thrown into a situation where I could possibly be bullied by older kids.
By seniors, yeah.
Yeah, and that would have been pretty dangerous for me at that time, coming from where I came from. So go ahead.
And your brothers and sisters, are you in the middle?
I am the youngest son.
Okay.
And in the middle of four girls. So
Okay.
yeah. I got two younger sisters and two older sisters.
And were you playing sports before you came
Oh yes.
here?
Oh yes.
So what sports did you play back?
Oh, everything.
Everything.
In Texas, we played. Our
Texas.
own community. We had. That's where I learned to play football. To be honest with you, I was very young. My dad took us to Texas and said, "Hey, there's a football field. There's
You got to
all
play
the kids
football in
inside."
Texas,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
that's
my
like
goodness.
a requirement.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Football was a big thing in Texas, even in the early '60s and what have you. So we played football, basketball, and baseball. Baseball was huge as well. Baseball was a big fabric of the black community in the South and in Texas. In California, not as much, but it was probably the best sport. Coming here was baseball. To me, it was the strongest sport. Not that football wasn't good, but it just wasn't the level of Texas football.
Oh, yeah, no, Sacramento's nowhere near Texas.
Yeah. So, but baseball, Texas was no near Sacramento than baseball. Baseball was unbelievable. My dad would ask me after each sports the first year, "Why you think about football?" I said, "Dad, they don't know nothing about football." Basketball, I said, "Well, they play pretty good, but so when you're used to being around um, those type of athletes uh, for that period of time and the challenge, it was just something different and unique. And not that they didn't have great athletes here in Sacramento. Obviously, they do. But when you're all in just one section there, it's challenging and it's competitive.
And Sacramento is an area that has been drastically changed during the 40s, 50s, and 60s in terms of the population because of the military. And there's
No doubt.
two large military bases here at the time. So this is the 50s and 60s while you were growing up is the heart of the civil rights movement. And your father, having moved to different towns during this time, what were some of those conversations like with your dad during the civil rights movement? Did you guys talk about these challenges and moving out to California, or how did all that go with your dad, who obviously probably had some really challenging times?
Yeah. Well, but the thing was, we were entrenched in the civil rights movement because we were, all black community, even in Texas. And I recollect there are very few things that you remember as a youth that kind of a marker for your life. The day that Martin Luther King was shot, my mother runs across the street. We're in Texas, and she said they killed him. They killed him. My mother, 14, 15 years old. They killed who? Said they killed Martin Luther King. And there was a different tone to her voice when she said it. So it meant something, because we've had many tragic things happen in those communities. But when she ran across and said they killed him and Martin Luther King, it was a different thing. And that was the impetus for me to say, I need to figure out who this guy is, what he's about. And from that part on, he's been like in our household.
Right.
All my kids growing up, I never knew this.
I heard more than they wanted to hear, huh?
They're like, when you gonna start playing them Martin Luther King tapes? Even when I played pro ball, I took all those things with me, and the guys would reference me as, "Oh, here come Martin Luther King. Here he come. Here he come. He got something about Martin Luther King." And then it turned into, "Oh, he's got Malcolm X. Here he come. Here he come." So my culture, at least that was a big part of me. And to make that an emphasis in my life and for my kids, I think was important to know that you stand for something, you mean something, you are about something, you are as good or whatever. And they didn't really have those challenges like maybe you probably didn't, but you probably did at some point, even in your career, that you're going to get questioned and you're going to get checked, and you got to be ready.
Yeah.
You got to be ready. You got to be ready.
So that was like, I think, we all have different times in our life where when we think about an incident, it transports us back to, we can remember where we were standing, what we were doing. So your mom coming across that seems like one of those moments for you. Like you remember exactly where you were at.
Exactly where I was at. I was just standing on one knee shooting marbles. You don't know nothing about that. But
we shot a few marbles in my time in Oak Park.
Did you?
Yeah.
I was on one knee shooting marbles, and she ran across there and said they killed him. And I said, "What did she talk about? What's wrong with Mom? What?" And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. It was a marker for me.
So this might be an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Somebody that I read a lot about Martin Luther King and study him a little bit myself, but I'm just curious, what do you think Martin Luther King would think about where we're at right now in light of all that he worked on? What do you think he would think if he would be able to speak today?
Yeah, I would think that some things that he spoke about during his time and the challenges that he had were sometime were at some point covered up, so to speak. And I think lately some of those things have been revealed as to what he was really speaking on, now we see exactly kind of what he was talking about. And not to mean that there's not any hope or what have you, but just the fact that that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's deal with it.
It's
and
legit.
let's move
It's
on.
real.
It's real. It's real. Because in my growing up, now getting integrated into all of society, not just one particular section, then you see, okay, it's not as bad as whatever. Come to California. California is pretty liberal. Everybody's free, kind of doing their thing, whatever. And then you come back full circle, and then we get other things happening in this country, and you say, oh, wow. Even from a Christian's perspective, and that's what I think is somewhat dangerous in where we are now. We're trying to find that balance of this Christianity, that Christianity. I remember Martin used to always say, never forget there's almost 1 billion Christians in the world, but yet and still we have these issues and this and wars and things going on. And the way he struggled during his time, and to have powerful icons not kind of come to his aid was kind of, as a youth, you question, well, if we talk about the same thing, why can't we?
Even ones he thought was his friends that ended up turning on.
Right. Difficult.
Well, and he wasn't one to divide either.
No.
So he tried to bring people together, which I think sometimes we forget.
Oh, ain't no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So so eventually you end up at that other high school. See, I went to Sac High, and when I was in high school, Cordova was pretty dominant while the base was still open and everything. And so you went to Cordova High School. Did you narrow your sports down to just baseball, or did you continue to play multiple sports?
No doubt. I played all 3 sports. I was fortunate to, when I went to Cordova during the fall of my sophomore year, I was already put on the varsity football team, which was the first time they've ever done that. And to go in there at 135 pounds, 5'11", and take your physical, and all the guys laugh at you because you're a freshman.
Till you get on the field.
Yeah. I mean, they laughed at me. Why is he doing here? We've never had anybody. We need a 6'6", 240-pound lineman. You bringing this little guy up here. But anyway, that was good. And then they did the same thing for me in basketball. They put me on the varsity in basketball. So I've never played a JV sport growing up, and they did the same thing in baseball. And baseball my dad played baseball. He played a little bit of the Negro League. He'd come in Atlanta. He was living in Atlanta. At one point, they come through, call him, we need a pitcher. He go down
and pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a pitcher, and he played baseball. And it was that was probably where I fell in love with the game of baseball over the other sports. But that was a reason that I pretty much chose that. I had an opportunity to go play football any place in the country, from Columbia to UCLA, USC, all those Pac-8 at that time conferences.
Now it's what, Pac-1 or something? I don't know what's getting ready to be.
The Big 8, I had office in Notre Dame. But baseball was probably the thing for me.
And you mentioned this earlier, but would you say sports is what really helped you adjust to this new city and a new integrated school? Sports was really what enabled you to make that transition?
No doubt, because on a team, you got to be unselfish to be on a team. You want to be a part of a team, and you don't want to be the guy that's a good player but not a part of the team. And that's what that taught me, was when I came here and we all rallied, we were all charging for the same thing, as a team. So that made my adjustments very easy to come out here, and I still have relationships with the guys that I came out here with. Like I said, Virgil Brown.
Yeah,
we came out together. He told me where to go to school. He told me what to do. And
and Virgil was a police officer.
Yes.
Yeah, his whole career.
Yes.
And came out here because of the military also, his father.
Right, yeah. His father, he was actually in Amarillo, Texas with me as well. And he might have came out here a year earlier because he had to come out a year earlier because he had to tell me where to go to school.
Right.
So he was out here a year earlier, and we went to school together. So that was a good transition for me. That was a
I
good
imagine
piece.
even back then, sports brought people together that probably wouldn't do anything together
Oh, no
or
doubt.
mix any other way, right?
no
So you
doubt.
get to learn about other people and
Exactly.
eliminate some of those stereotypes or biases that you might have had.
Right. Well, that's what sports does for you, you
Yeah.
know. So that was good. And I was always involved in sports, so that made it relatively easy for me.
So earlier you said you you did downplay your accomplishments, but I want to contradict that here a little bit. I think if I remember correctly, you got drafted into Major League Baseball out of high school, right? And I think it was at the time, maybe the first time you and a teammate from Cordova High School both got drafted in the first round, and that was like the first time that had ever happened for the same class from the same school, right?
Right.
What was that whole experience like? I mean, as a young kid, lived in a few places, have some pretty unique experiences living in different parts of the country, and now you're getting drafted by this stuff you've listened to on the radio and on TV. You know, I don't know if you expected that or what was that whole experience like in high school?
That was interesting. I was somewhat naive of the process, and we had at my senior year where it was like every week and someone was at the house trying to get you to do this, go there, do this. And I remember the draft at that time was in June, and we were still in high school in June. So I was called to the office, and I didn't know why. They said, "Hey, you've been drafted." I said, "Man, I got two brothers, man. They went in the Army. I can't go."
So it was a different draft.
Yeah, I said, "No, I can't go, man. I can't. I'm not made out for that, man. I'm a sports guy." They, no, you've been drafted by the Detroit Tigers in the first round. I said, "Oh, wow, thanks." So that took a while to figure that out, and my teammate was drafted by the White Sox, and the guy came in.
You almost had a good team in high
we had
school.
we had a great team. We had a great team. We like I said, baseball here, they could play. So the scout that drafted me, we're talking about funds and that type of thing, and I kind of knew what, after doing some research, what was expected monetarily. But then again, I was hit with, I can't give you more than we give your teammate. Why is that? Well, that doesn't look right in baseball. And I think, and I said,
was your teammate white?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I said, oh, wow, okay. So
it's a harsh reality.
Yeah, exactly. So it takes you back.
Right.
It takes you back to where you grew up, and all of a sudden all these other things start. You say, oh, okay. It's still there, but you've been able to survive all the minefields and all those types of things. But when he said that, it just took me back, and I said, okay, cool. I get it. I kind of get it, and went from there. But it was a great experience at my senior year in high school to have options, so to speak. I had a lot of options, and I chose baseball.
And you played for a couple different teams as a player, the Montreal, Detroit, San Diego, I think. What was that like trying to break into this league that had, I'm sure, amazing athletes at, 18 years?
Yeah.
18 years old, pretty young guy.
Yeah, well, I think I would have, if I had to do it all over again, I think my winners and things like that would have been more concentrated on baseball rather than, like, we have Dusty Baker used to open up the Del Campo gym. We used to go play basketball in there every Sunday.
Games.
Yeah, pickup game. I mean, we played all day. Jerry Royster, all the guys would come out, Taylor Duncan. We go in there and we just have a ball. But we were baseball players, but you've been accustomed to playing all sports. But I think if we'd have concentrated, at least if I would have, I think I would have been more than just a journeyman player. I was pretty much a journeyman player, at the professional level. I think the thing that saved me was that I knew the game. I knew the strategy of the game. And I would always, on my teams, I would always lead, regardless of what my average was or whatever. I was always the go-to guy. But when you get to the major leagues, there's already that established.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to fit into another little place over here and be good with that. But that didn't fit for me. So when I became manager, that was like, God, is this what you've been planning for me this whole time? And I think that was where I found my niche.
Let's talk about that for a second, because that, growing up, I think you, Dusty Baker, maybe Frank Robinson are really some of the only black managers I can recall in baseball. Not like there's tons of African-American managers in Major League Baseball. So eventually, after you finish playing, you start coaching and managing. What was it like attempting and eventually getting the opportunity to lead the whole team as a manager?
Mm-hmm. Well, it was. I think when I first got in after my playing days, they wanted me to go to the front office. They wanted me to be in administration, and I told them I'm not a suit and tie, sit behind it. I like to be on the field. I said that's and they were pretty. Montreal was actually pretty upset at me for not taking the route to be like a general manager, vice president, or whatever. And I told them, I said, no, that's just not my area. So when I got into being a manager, it was probably the most comfortable I had been in all my career, because I knew that was my purpose. I knew that God had me there, and that was what I was supposed to be doing, and I was comfortable with that. So
that's pretty awesome. I don't know how many people actually get to do what they believe they were meant to do.
Right, but I didn't know it till I got in it.
Right.
I always aspired, but I got in it, and it's wow, man, this is my thing, and this is what I'm gonna do, and this is what I'm gonna be good at. So that was.
And as a coach, I think for the Marlins, you guys won the World Series, right?
Mm-hmm. 97, we won the World Series against the Cleveland Indians. We had a tremendous team. We had Gary Sheffield, Devon White, Moises Alou. I was a bench coach, and they had no. It was another deal. It was another one of those situations where you kind of knew I kind of went there somewhat as a token, or as to feel the commissioner's thing of let's get blacks involved. So I was. They brought
and you
me,
felt that.
Oh, no
even
doubt.
then.
Oh, no doubt. Okay. No doubt. And so I get there, and the manager, Jim Leland, who just got inducted into the Hall of Fame, said, "Hey, well, Jerry, I know you do the infield. I know you're an infield guy. And you do infield instructions, and you do this and do that, but I don't know how we're gonna handle these guys in the outfield." Sheffield, who's controversial brother, Devon White, who's a controversial brother, and Moises Alou from the Dominican.
Little personality.
Oh, my goodness. I said, I got him. I said, I got them. I said, these are my people. I got them. Don't worry about them. I got them. I said, we're okay. We're okay. All right.
And clearly you were.
Oh, yeah.
The World Series.
Oh, yeah. We won the World Series.
So, there's not too many people in this world that can say they won a World Series. Mm-hmm. So either the World Series or the journey to that World Series, what do you remember the most about, that's the pinnacle of baseball, is winning the national championship. Like, if you were to think of one thing, either the journey to the World Series or the actual World Series that you remember the most, what would that be for all of us that never, came close to playing at that level or coaching or managing?
I think during the World Series was obviously a tremendous experience, because you catered to and all this type of stuff. But the game itself, I think one of the biggest games we had was we played in Cleveland, and Orr Hershiser was pitching for the Cleveland Indians at that time. And Moises Alou, who we came from Montreal to Florida together. I was in Montreal Expo coach, and then I went to Florida. There was a game where that game against Hershiser, his first time up, he struck out on pitches that were not even close in the strike zone. and I wasn't the hitting coach, but Milt May was our hitting guy. And I go down to Milt May and I say, hey, man, I need to, let me holler at Moses. He said, oh, yeah, you've been taking care of Moses all year. He looks like he's whatever. Go holler at him. So he's down there blowing in his hand because it's cold in Cleveland. He's just blowing in his hand. I said, Mo, what's going on? He said, what are you talking about, Jerry? I said, why are you swinging the balls in the dirt? I said, you just up there swinging. I said, Moses, you're one of the best hitters that we have, but you're up there as a swinger. And this guy's at the end of his career. He's still a good pitcher, but it's now strategy, not stuff. I said, come on, man. You're Felipe Alou's son. Mm-hmm. You know strategy. I said, come on. So he gets up there the next time, and our dugout is in the first base dugout. He's a right-handed hitter, so he can look in our dugout. Mm. And I'm sitting next to Jim Leland, and he gets up there next at bat, and the first pitch is a breaking ball in the dirt again, and he doesn't swing at it. He backs off, rubs his hand, looks in the dugout, and winks at me. Jim Leland said, what's going on? What the hell's going on? This is the world, so what's going on? I said, he got him, Skip, he got him. Boom, next pitch he hit out of the park. And I said, wow.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, and I could tell you many stories about me and Moses Alou, how he bought me trucks, just here, Jerry, because, you try to take care of people that you have been with, mm-hmm. and then they go into another team. You say, okay, man, we need to do this, do that. I need you to get ready to drive in 100 runs. You never drove in 100 runs before, and this is how you're going to do it. And boom, those things
and his
happen.
father managed in baseball too, right? He probably had good knowledge.
He was my teacher. He was my teacher. He taught me everything.
His dad.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he was the best. He was
some mentorship.
Oh, Felipe Alou is one of the greatest minds in baseball history. I mean, just a tremendous man, a tremendous Christian. I tell you one story about Felipe. We're playing in Montreal. He had taken over the team. And
this is when you were playing?
No, I was a third base coach. I was his third base coach. And we're playing a team, and we're kind of struggling a little bit. And I sit down next to him. I said, dang, Felipe, this game is really taking a different turn. I see it's kind of shifting. He talks like, hey, Jerry, just calm down a little bit, Jerry. I tell you something. You look in the outfield, Jerry. There's all people, angels in white in the outfield, Jerry. We're gonna be okay. That's what he did. Boom. And we went on and won the game or whatever. But we always had these type of challenging conversations about Christianity, about men, about people. He was that guy that just sharpened me.
Awesome. Yeah. And then after Florida, you actually became the manager mm-hmm. of the Chicago White Sox, right? Mm-hmm. And eventually, I think in 2000 or somewhere around there, you guys came in first place, and you were selected as the American League Manager of the Year, mm-hmm. right? Or mm-hmm. earned, I should say.
Yeah.
So, actually, let me back up a little bit. I forgot to ask you. I think your father passed shortly after the World Series.
Yes,
is that right?
Yes, he passed the next day.
The next day.
The next day.
So, did your mom and dad get to see some of your success?
Oh, yes.
In both coaching and playing?
Yes, my dad had a chance to come out and see us play in Florida, and my mom, she lived 27 years after that, so she was a part of the managerial part of my life.
Talk a little bit about that and how I imagine it had to be pretty special. You mentioned your dad played a little bit with the Negro Leagues, and the mm-hmm. reason for the Negro Leagues is because couldn't play in the major leagues. And now their son not only was a player, but at least for your mom anyway, got to witness you actually mm-hmm. not only be a player, but manage other players. What I don't know if you ever had conversations with your parents about that, but what must have that been for your parents?
Well, I think when I look back on it, I know my father passed before he got a chance to see me manage a game in the major leagues, but he did see me manage in Double-A Jacksonville was when I started my career as a manager. But for my mom, I think it was for her, it was something to look forward to every day. Her son on TV managing the games. Her schedule was built around my schedule. Where's Jerry them at? Where they playing? Who they playing? What are they doing? What time does the game come on? So I had to get the package, the TV package for her to watch all the games. And that I won't say, I think God used that to give her life.
I bet.
Yeah, that gave her life.
Because that could only have been really a dream for your parents when they were growing up.
Right.
Right. To think that a black man would be managing a major league baseball team was clearly unheard of in their time.
Right. And come to find out, back in Georgia, when my father moved from Atlanta to go to South Georgia, where my mom's people were from, he started a league in Georgia.
Negro league.
Yeah, Negro league, a little league, not a Negro league, but something on Sunday where everybody played. You played the little smaller towns over there.
Instead of basketball at the gym and
exactly.
at Del Campo.
Exactly. He orchestrated that. So I said, I didn't know that till after he had passed, that he had did all these things. He was a manager. He did all those things at that level. So that was a good thing.
So I think your mom got to witness this, you becoming the manager of the year. So that was a pretty good year, and you as the leader of this team, I think that was the first major league team that you managed, right? Mm-hmm. And so what was that like? I don't think you guys won the World Series that year, but still you had a lot of success as the leader of the team.
Yeah, I think it was confirmation that I had satisfied not my goals, but you always felt that you needed to be validated in some sense when you get into those arenas. But what validated me was the strategy of the other managers, and my strategy was that, I thought you knew about that, but you don't. And they're telling me you the best, So that validated me in a sense that, just for me personally, that I belong. Mm-hmm. And that was important for me. It was that I belong, and I knew I belonged, and I was a part of this fraternity, so to speak, that, hey, you're just as good as so-and-so and so-and-so, even though they might think boom, 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 but strategically, whatever. And they would come over and say things to me like, wow, I didn't realize I thought I would boom, boom, boom. From all the managers, like, how do you have this team on automatic and doing this type of thing and whatever? But it was just confirmation to my spirit that I belong, that I was okay being there.
And then you eventually became the manager of the New York Mets, which is most of my memories of you in baseball is from when you were with the Mets. So what was that like going to New York? Probably one of the most famous baseball cities in the world, next to that other team in New York.
Yeah, the Yankees. Oh yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, that was an awesome experience. I had just experienced Chicago, which we had 4 beat writers that followed the team
just for the White Sox.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you went to New York, it was like 15.
Oh.
So it became huge. But for me, again, because I knew where I was, that he had put me there, I was very comfortable. I was when I look back at it, I was crazy comfortable being me in New York, and I think that played well for me, played well for my team. But New York is challenging, but the good thing I like about New York is I felt that with 9 million people having an opinion, that there were some pretty good minds in New York about baseball. They knew when to get up.
Talking about fans.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
They knew when to get up. When you go to Yankee Stadium, and you as a manager know that this is a big moment. It could be in the second inning.
The fans know it too.
Oh, they up.
Yeah.
In New York. Oh,
Yeah.
they up. They rise up. Like this, something got to happen right here.
Right.
So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the challenge of answering those questions that they thought they knew a little bit more or whatever, or had a different opinion. They all got opinions and what have you, but it was fun.
Are you trying to say New Yorkers have opinions?
You had 9 million of them, bro. 9 million. But it was good. It was good. Like you know, if he puts you there and it's gonna work out. Because when I left my job with Chicago, my wife asked me. She said, "Where do you think you're going next?" I said, "I don't know, honey." And I came back one day. I said, "Dang, I think we're gonna head to New York." She said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, New York." She said, I don't want to go to New York. I don't want to be a part of that. I said, "No, that's where he got us going." And boom, I got a call to be a first base coach. Then after that, I was from the first base coach, went to the bench coach, and then after that, they called me in and said, "Hey, we want you to manage the team." I said, "Okay."
So, as someone that's lived pretty much all over this country, originally from Georgia, lived in Chicago, New York, all these different places. After your, I guess, formal career was over, you chose to come back here to Sacramento, as opposed to any number of other places that you've actually lived. Why Sacramento?
Well, I think Sacramento gave me my roots to a degree. For people, I like I obviously like the weather. I like the amalgamation of blacks and whites doing things together, that type of thing. And it's my high school years. My mom and dad, we could have easily went back to Georgia, but they wanted to stay here. So I wanted to be. When I told my wife when we left New York, she said she liked Chicago. I said, "Oh no, I got to go back home." She said, "Well, I said, your parents are there, my parents are there. We can build a home. I can let you build a home." She wanted to build a home, so she built a home, and we came back to Sacramento, and I don't regret that at all. I love Sacramento. I think Sacramento is a hidden gem.
Yeah.
I think it's a hidden gem in the country.
So you could have easily, I'm guessing, I'm not all up in your bank account or your finances, but I'm going to guess you could have semi-retired or retired from baseball, lived a good life, just you and your wife done things, but you chose to start or continue your foundation, the Jerry Manuel Foundation, and do some things in school, in the school space, and help youth, chase some of those same dreams that maybe you had. Why did you feel the need to give back to the community in that way?
Well, I felt baseball had come to a point to where they were losing the African American kid to other sports, and there was a big to do in Major League Baseball of trying to get that interest back up. And that was something that I was always passionate about, even coming back full circle from Martin Luther King, trying to bring people. And so my wife would always ask me, "Well, you if that's what you believe, then
you
should do it. Yeah, let's get this going, because I think it's a good cause." But I wanted to marry education with baseball. I didn't quite get to the level that I wanted to get. I wanted to have baseball be taught even in the classroom, like in a physics class, the bat, that type of thing. And math, the 90 degrees, 60, I wanted, but we were on our way there, and that didn't quite happen. But we did, in our time with the kids, use those numbers and stuff to help them to understand the subject matter that they were dealing with, even history, all those types of things. So
A lot of history intertwined with baseball. You can
oh,
learn a lot about history just through the baseball lens.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that was my goal, not necessarily to increase the numbers playing, but to give kids another option in their life, to give them something to fall back on.
I think that issue is still a challenge in Major League Baseball,
no
right?
doubt.
The
Yes.
number of African American ball players and managers. Why do you think that is, that there's a drop in African American athletes playing baseball?
Well, I think there are a number of reasons, and I think one of the reasons is economics. I think the cost of a bat for us.
Yeah, it's crazy. My
yeah.
daughter plays softball. That's insane. The cost
You
is
would know.
crazy.
Yeah.
Don't crack that bat, girl.
Yeah, and all those different things, and now the institution of travel ball, that type of stuff, and
Not cheap either.
when we are 70% single family, it's hard for a single mom to say, "I'm gonna give you a $300 at bat."
Yeah.
When I grew up, I wouldn't have. If
Probably wouldn't have played.
Oh, I wouldn't have played. No way I would have played. There's no way I would have. And we probably would have missed Willie Mays, Hank Aaron. We'd have missed all these types of people because of the economics of it. It wasn't much to get a ball and a bat back in our day,
Right.
and throw your glove to somebody else and you using this end and I'm using that. But that's not happening. That's not. So I think that's a huge part. Plus, I think our culture has kind of migrated to the other sports like basketball. Now, is my kids growing up, they feel connected to that sport.
It's not too expensive either.
Yeah,
you can find a basketball court at any park.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're pretty much grew up under that thing rather than Jackie Robinson and those people. They were Michael Jordans and
Because they don't see people when they turn on TV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They look like them. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it was years ago. I don't even remember what got me out there, what the reason why I went out there. But I went out to your school. I think it was out in Placer County or
You went out there, Alberta.
Alberta. It was, I don't know. That was probably 10 years ago, maybe, maybe even more.
Yeah.
And I was, I'd never heard of it before that time when I went out there. And when I got there, I'm seeing like a regular school, like kids going to class, academics, and baseball. And I just thought to myself, here's a person, who isn't just talk. Like, you actually are doing something to try to make this happen. And I think it was a pretty awesome experience for me, even talking to some of the kids.
Well,
and
I
their
appreciate you coming out there. I missed that day, but I appreciate you coming out there.
Yeah. So
I heard you were very good too.
not at baseball. No,
Your
I didn't
subject
play
matter.
baseball as a kid. There's no way I would step off that mound now with that ball coming like that. You got to start that when you're young, I think,
You're
so
right.
you're not scared to death. I'd be
You're right.
scared to death. I try to talk trash to my daughter playing softball, and then I'll get in the cage with those girls pitch fast too. I'm like, oh, that's coming faster than I expected. So your foundation is still going, and you are trying to build a baseball field in what maybe back in the day would be called the projects, low-income housing right off of Broadway, New Helvetia, CV Circle area. Again, why are you attempting to do this, and what do you, if in fact you end up building this field, what do you hope that it accomplishes?
That's a good question. For me, I've been in Sacramento all that time that we were talking about, but I had never been to CV Circle. I didn't know where it was, and I said I know every part of Sacramento. You know how we did in high school. We went everywhere. Everybody, hey, they having a party over here down south on so and so street. Blah blah blah.
I know you came to the best neighborhood, Oak Park, for a party.
Oh yeah. We
saw all you guys outside the neighborhood trying to come talk to our girls in our neighborhood. We saw y'all.
Oh, we loved it. We loved coming into Oak Park, man. But anyway, I had never seen it. So once Pastor Bob showed me the school, I'm saying, how do we let this be like this in Sacramento? I said, what this is 2023, 22. I said, what do these kids do? He said, well, most of these kids that leave this school, 50% of them don't make it to the next level. I said, wow. I said,
To
no.
middle school.
Yeah, to middle school. I said, no, we can't let that happen, man. We can't let that happen. So I brought Major League Baseball on. I said, look, y'all talking about doing something. Here it is. Look what we got here. Look what we
So
got
you
here.
brought MLB out.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I brought him out. Brought a vice president out and said, hey, need you to be a part of this. Is this what you're talking about? You know.
And I'm guessing if I called that guy, he wouldn't have come anywhere. But the reason he came here is because you.
Yeah, well,
right? Because
I
you
had,
know him.
Yeah, and I was a part of the diversity committee
Okay.
in Major League Baseball. They had formed the diversity committee, and some people called in and said, you need Jerry Manuel. He's doing this kind of work. You need him on there. So okay, and I said, well, y'all need to come out here and see this. This is probably not the only place in the country, but this is a place that we can make change. We can help make change. And when they came out, they were smitten by the fact that, wow, these kids don't get this, these kids don't get that, and it's stuck here in this thing here. So yeah, we can help, and that's how we got involved.
And what do you hope that it will do when it comes to fruition? I'm not going to say if, I'm saying when it comes to fruition. What do you hope that complex, that field will do for the young people and the families, for the parents too, for that community?
Just provide another vehicle to get out. Just provide another vehicle to get out, and then reciprocity, give back to help change it. If we could change them to change when they come back, that's a win. That's a big win for the community, because somebody in there might have the answer to AIDS. Somebody in there might have the answer to certain things, but not given the opportunity to put that out there. So we got to give them every opportunity to be all that they can be, and to take what they can be and give it back to the community and make it better. That's the whole idea.
Love it. Last two questions, but before I get to the last question, I think I've heard you explain this, so I just want to make sure I'm right. Let's say you never made it to Major League Baseball. You didn't have the skills that you have or the dedication that you had, and you didn't make it there. I'm assuming from what you've said, you would still say sports helped you tremendously through your high school years. And, you know, I know people who, at times, the only reason they go to school is because of sports,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the reason they're in their history class is because they
Mm-hmm.
want to play on Friday night,
Right.
or they want to play hoops on Tuesday night at the games. And so that's what keeps them there in those moments where they're thinking of quitting. Would I be wrong if I said that?
Oh, no, you're exactly right. I think too, sometimes the danger of that is somebody using you but not getting you to do all the other things that you're talking about, like the history, the classes, the math classes, and the things like that. That's where it gets a little dangerous, because now you're putting the sport ahead of the man, and you can't do that. You got to always build the man. It's got to be bigger than the game.
Because the man's still going to be there when the sport's gone.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah. So last thing I want to ask you, you have some very unique experiences, both personal and professional, and you've done a lot of things to lift others. You've talked about people that have mentored you, and then you've mentored other people. You know, we go in these cycles in our country. We just kind of went through one where there's a lot of unrest. There's a lot of social justice protests around the country. Here in Sacramento was no exception. We had probably 2 years straight of middle of the street, some groups trying to burn buildings. And typically what happens is there's a law enforcement incident that happens that's like the last straw, the spark that lights everything on fire. But that's not all the protests are about. They're about education, about opportunities, equity, and all these things. And these have happened in our country thousands and thousands of times before. Somebody that grew up in the South during the Civil Rights Movement. What would you say that people really should be thinking about or talking about or working on to try to ensure that we don't continue to have these cycles where we have all these protests in the street fighting for equality and all these things? What would you say with somebody that has seen all the things that you've seen are some of the top things we should be thinking about, talking about, doing to ensure that everybody can, you know, keep the person and become
Yeah.
whole and thrive and support their families and live a good life?
Ooh, man, that's a tough question.
I saved I saved the best for last.
I think I think that at least for me in my life, um, there's been a goodness from God for me. But I also think too, um, if you are principled, if you're a principled man and you live by the principles, then I think you got a chance. I think the country has a chance, rather than be, like I told the basketball players, rather than me sitting here feeding your ego, let's talk about feeding the spirit man. Because if you don't, the ego is going to dominate your life, and when you put yourself behind the wheel, things probably don't always work out. You're gonna have some struggles and stuff. But if you put principles and the spirit behind it, you got a chance to. Not that you're not gonna have any setbacks or distractions or any challenges, but you got a chance. You got a better chance of handling those situations than you taking it on your ego, on your own, and trying to do what you think is best without being principled. It's very dangerous. I think it's very dangerous for politicians or anybody in power to not be a person of principle or a person of ego. And you got to find out which guy that is. If he's an ego guy, he's not going to last. It's not going to work. It's not gonna, but if he's principle, the principle going to last long when he gone. Mm-hmm. And that's what you have to stand on. You got to put your feet on that type of solid foundation.
Awesome. So if somebody listening to this wants to help with the Jerry Manuel Foundation or your efforts to build the field out there off of Broadway, I mean, you never know who might be listening, right? They might have a connection or whatever. Sure. How would they go about doing it? If you inspired somebody to help in your efforts to help young people, is there a website or how would they?
We have a Jerry Manuel Foundation website. I'm not as technology savvy as the guy who's doing this stuff.
You and me both.
So I'm not into the websites, all those things that the kids and the people in the foundation do that type of stuff. But I'm more of, what do you need me to do? What do we need to help on? And then I like to get involved in that type of way. And if people want to help, it's just go to the website or the foundation.
Which I know it's there because I've been on that website just today.
I'm easy to find. I'm not hiding. I'm easy. I'm easy. I'm easy to find. I'm easy to be around. Sometimes my wife say, but but for those type of causes, I just again believe that the impetus for me that changed my life was the Martin Luther King thing. And that has never changed, and no matter where I'm at and what sport I'm in or whatever, there's something about him that kind of goes with me and tells me, if this guy can do what he did at 39 years old or whatever, what you doing? Yeah. What are you doing? This guy had one suit, one brown suit his whole life, but he changed the world. Gandhi, another guy. Those are the type of people that interest me. People that don't necessarily have a big ego, but have a purpose for trying to make humanity what it should be.
Well, hey, I appreciate you because you don't have a big ego either. And you've accomplished a lot, but you've also given back a lot and continue to give a lot. So I'm very grateful for you being on this show and imparting some of your experiences and knowledge on everybody that's listening. So thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I appreciate you doing what you do. I didn't realize you was doing this, but it's awesome that you're trying to move the needle. I think we have kindred spirits in that sense that we're trying to move the needle, and it doesn't matter who gets the credit or not. We're just trying to move the needle. That's all. We're not gonna be here, just move the needle. That's all.
Yeah.
Make it a little better than it was when you got here.
Well, and I think it's pretty awesome that your parents got to see
Yeah.
from how things were when they were younger to their own children being very successful and being able to chase their dreams. And I think that's, as a parent, you're a parent, I'm a parent, that's what I want for my kids.
Right.
I want them to be able to chase their dreams. And I think
no doubt.
no matter what neighborhood, where you're from, what race, nationality, beliefs, religion, that's what you want for your kids. And,
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And I
thank
think
you for helping with that.
if you lead that, then they have some things to stand on.
Yeah.
You know, when things get tough. It's gonna get tough for everybody.
Yeah.
It's gonna get tough. But you gotta endure. So
Well, thank you very much.
thank you,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Appreciate you, man.
One of the big purposes of A Way Forward is to hear different voices and different opinions, because that is how we can make informed decisions ourselves. So if you are someone that would like to come on A Way Forward to express your opinion, go to chiefhahn.com/podcast. chiefhahn.com/podcast.